Welcome to a new video and welcome to a new year. Today is 1st of January 2026, so Happy New Year to everyone. This video is going to be stretched over a few days or maybe even a couple of weeks. On this video I will be prepping the firewall and cleaning it up, fixing a bit of rust in it as well. And I'll show you the engine mounts that I've tacked into place. They're waiting to be welded in. Alrighty, we've got the firewall here. I've cleared out all the wiring and hoses and everything like that. There is a bit of rust here. There is actually rust holes on this side. This looks bad, but it's not actually that bad. The rest of it just needs a good clean up, and this part here where the throttle pedal bolts onto, I need to cut that out because that's actually starting to separate with the rust in there. So cut this piece out and clean it out, weld in some new metal, same as over there. Cut this piece out and weld in some new metal. I've got a piece of the original bonnet here that I cut off before I threw out. That was pretty rusty, so the bonnet was no good, but I cut off some metal to weld into there and weld in over there. Once I do the rust repairs, I'll basically just go over the firewall with a wire brush on an angle grinder and a drill, clean it all up, get as much of this original seam sealer out, and I'll redo the seam sealer. And also I have noticed there was quite a few extra holes in the firewall here from the previous owner for wiring and other bits and pieces, like this one up here, this one up here, and there's a couple of extras around as well, like this one. I probably won't weld them because I will need to rip out the heater box and everything like that. All I'm going to do is just basically leave all the holes as they are at the moment, find out which ones I actually need and which ones I don't. These cars are fairly simple, so I don't need a lot of wires or anything like that coming through. It is going to be EFI, so there will be extra wires controlling the EFI, but that's about it. But I think there's more than enough holes there in the firewall for me to be able to use them and have quite a few spare. The rust repair paint, I'm using this stuff, rust converter paint. It's essentially just a primer. So once I actually do all the rust repairs and clean it up, I'll give the firewall a coat with this stuff, and then I'll get some gloss black and do the whole lot. Here's the engine mounts tacked into place. I did have the engine sitting there. It was all measured up and everything like that before I welded these in. So the original engine mounts weren't going to fit on the driver's side because they fouled the steering shaft going to the rack and pinion. With this engine mount on this side, I've got about an inch of clearance, so that's more than enough. So as long as the engineer gives the tick of approval to use these engine mounts, I'm happy. So next thing is, I'll get into cleaning all this up and start getting that corner ready and that bit over there ready to start cutting out the rust. I've given the firewall a bit of a clean up with the wire brush on the angle grinder, and this corner down here has a lot more rust than I was expecting, but that's okay. It's not all that bad. It's still repairable. I found a couple of other very small rust holes around this way. Where the bitumen seam sealer was still stuck, the metal looks actually pretty good. Moving along to the driver's side, around here, that's not too bad. I've still got to clean out this corner. I've run out of sandblasting grit, so I need to go buy some more, but you get the idea. And this bit here, it's still looking pretty good. What I think I might do is, the reason why it rusts so bad is because there's only one drain hole there, and on the other side there's the other drain hole there, so there's basically only two drain holes for this whole seam. So what I might do is just maybe in the center there, cut a little notch out there and there as well, cut out a notch here as well, just to get the water to drain off a bit better. Alright, I went and got some more sandblasting grit, and I've gone over the whole firewall, as you can see. I didn't strip it completely because I was running out of grit again, and to be honest, I didn't think the firewall was all that bad, so just basically getting all the loose stuff off, the loose rust, everything like that. Then I cut out this where the rust was here, and I just sprayed in some weld through primer. This is the piece here that's going in. I've drilled some holes in there to do some rosette welds just on the seam down here. It's a perfect fit, so next job is fit that and tack that in, and while I'm there I will tack in or fill up a couple of the small rust holes around there. This is the hand sandblaster that I've been using. It's only a cheap Ryobi one. There's my 25 kilo bag of garnet abrasive, and I must say, for a little thing, it does a good job, but it is really messy. Obviously you can see the grit all over the floor here. I've swept this floor about 3 times already and still got to do it again. But if you ever want something that strips paint and everything like that for small sections, grab yourself one of them. Alright, I have done the rust patching. Before I show you what it's like, I will preface this by saying I am not a welder, never claimed to be. I can tack and run a small bead, and that's about it with a MIG. TIG welding, I've never done TIG welding up until now, so this is my first try at TIG welding. A couple of other things, I couldn't clear all the contaminants from the metal, so there was a bit of contamination from leftover seam sealer that I couldn't get out. Also, I did show you that I used a copper based primer, supposedly weld through primer. My recommendation is never use that stuff. It is absolutely terrible. It makes welding so much harder. So if you ever think about using weld through primer and then welding on top of it, don't. Just use straight out clear clean metal. That's it. And do all your priming and sealing after you've done your welding, or else it's just going to end up an absolute mess. A couple of other things the metal on the body is really thin. So even at the lowest setting on my MIG, it was just blowing holes through like no one's business. It was absolutely terrible. Then I ran out of MIG gas, so that's when I switched over to TIG. I was going to wait until my welder came to do all the other bits and pieces, and he was going to give me a couple of hours lessons on TIG welding, but I wanted to get this done, so I thought I'll give it a go. And one part of it turned out okay for a first time TIG welder. The other bits, yeah, not so good. Will need a clean up with the die grinder, that sort of thing. I'm not going to completely clean it up. You will see where it's been welded, but I'm just going to remove all the high spots and all the big crappy looking pieces. I'll show you now. Here's the small bit where the rust was actually lifting part of it. That actually turned out okay, as I said, for a first time TIG welder. That was just clean metal, sandblasted it, cleaned off all the rust and welded that in. Again, it's nowhere near the best, but as I said, for a first time TIG welder, it was okay. These were the little rust holes. Again, because the metal's so thin, I was just blowing through the metal with the TIG. I had it down to like 40 amps with a small tungsten, but it was still blowing through. But I managed to fill the holes. Here is where everything went wrong. This is where I had the weld through primer. The weld through primer was just contaminating the welds. The metal being so thin, the MIG was just blowing through it. And here's where I actually ran out of MIG gas, so I switched over to the TIG and I had to try and fill the holes that was getting blown out. So yeah, it looks absolutely terrible, but it's not structural, so I'll just give it a good clean up and paint it. And there we have it, ladies and gents. Firewall is all seam sealed and painted. Just finished painting it, so the paint is still a bit wet. I've painted it in a matte black, so it won't look all nice and shiny. It will be matte, obviously, but I reckon it's come up a lot better than what it was. Alright, that's the end of another video. Next video I'll be working on the Watts link on the diff and welding, getting the pinion angle on the diff set and welding that in as well, but that will be after my welder comes along and welds in everything I need him to do. On the subject of welding, I have learnt a couple of things over this little piece of the project. Number one is I really do need to work on my welding, whether it's me or I just haven't got the welder set properly, not too sure, but definitely needs to, that needs some work. And the other thing is, I discovered that I actually enjoy TIG welding, and I probably, if I put in a few hours or more of practice, I reckon I could get fairly good at it, probably better than MIG welding. For some odd reason, I've never really been a good MIG welder, but during my apprenticeship I was doing oxyacetylene welding as well, and I found that I was able to do that pretty good. So TIG welding and oxyacetylene welding are fairly similar in the way you do things. The reason TIG's better is it doesn't take as long to melt the steel that you're working with, and less heat in the job, basically, which is the problem that I had here. Too much heat. Even though I turned the amperage right down, there was still too much heat for the thickness of the metal, which ended up causing a lot of holes. But I managed to fill them up and have it looking okay. The seam sealer, when I painted that down, it was all brush on. That managed to hide a lot of the imperfections in the welding, so that's a good thing. But you can still see bits and pieces. But again, this isn't a show car, but it's not a daily driver either. It's, you know, just a cruiser. Take out every so often when the weather's nice. Go to car meets, go to cars and coffees, that sort of thing. Yeah. So anyway, that's about it from me. Thanks for watching. See ya.